everyone, welcome back to Royal News Network. My name is Brittany, and today we are talking about how the palace is apparently burying the bully allegations, very serious bullying allegations made against Meghan Markle by her staff members, and by extension, Harry as well, because Harry engaged in this under her lead. And people are very upset about this. If you've read any of the bullying allegations, and I will go over them in detail, they were very serious, she humiliated people. People felt terrified. They shook when they had to actually go and tell her certain things. So she was very much the terror of Kensington Palace. So why is the palace burying these? Well, I have a couple of ideas, and I think actually the palace might be playing this very well. And I will go over a couple of those details in this video and give you guys an overview of this whole situation and how these allegations came to light. But first, if you haven't been to Royal News Network before, my name is Brittany, and we talk about everything related to royals here. So that's news, gossip, fashion, jewelry, television shows, movies, and history. We do it all right here. So if you want to subscribe, that would be fantastic. And we are closing in on 5,000 subscribers. And when we do that, I will be doing a giveaway with a swatch, the Queen's How Majestic swatch that they came out with in honor of her Platinum Jubilee. Her outfit changes colors as time goes by, so we will be doing a giveaway with that. And I'm also finishing up one giveaway as well from a couple of things I got from the Queen's, for one of the things I got from the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. And I have another giveaway I'm going to do as well here pretty soon. So if you guys want to hit that subscribe button, that would be fantastic. But like I said, these bullying allegations, very serious, very concerning that the palace is apparently deciding to bury these. However, like I said, I think I have a couple of reasons why. But first, let's go back in time a bit to when these allegations first came to light in early March 2021. This was days before Harry and Meghan's interview with Oprah Winfrey. And these staff members spoke out in part because they were so incredibly frustrated by Meghan's portrayal of herself as the victim of everything. She did nothing wrong. She's the victim of a smear campaign. The palace is horrible, yada. And they kind of came up and said, no, this is what really happened. And this report showed up in the Times of London. So this is like the report showing up here in the United States in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, like those, the Washington Post a bit, I guess you could say, but they've kind of gone by the wayside. But the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times, the New York Times has issues as well. Of course, the Wall Street Journal does too. But anyways, these publications are considered kind of the creme de la creme, and the Times of London is considered a very reputable source. And most notably, most critically, Harry and Meghan have never sued the Times of London over these claims, nor have they sued any other publication, including The Sun, which had a couple of details the Times did not, of actually, defaming Meghan Markle. So what does this tell us? This tells us these are probably true. Harry and Meghan are very sue happy. Harry's in the process of suing the Daily Mail, who's their favorite target and victim, over their report that he was trying to keep his desire to have taxpayer-funded security. Now, apparently he has said that he will cover it, but he wants met security anytime he's in the UK for his family, and he's suing the Home Office about it. And initially he wanted to keep this private and quiet, and the Daily Mail kind of blew that up. Anyways, Harry is suing over that because he's, frustrated that they made this public. But he and Meghan have never sued over this. So it tells us that most likely the allegations made here are probably true, although Meghan has officially denied them. And at the end, I will tag on Meghan's official denial of these allegations. But again, they are very serious. So let's first go over the Times of London piece, because that was the one who first kind of broke the story. And I remember, actually, I can't remember, it was probably this instance, I think, is why I got the Times of London subscription to begin with. I'm actually subscribed to the Times of London because you hit a paywall often. So I'm reading, and I'll put in screenshots directly from the article. So that way you can see that I'm not making these up. These are directly from the Times. So the first article, titled, "Meghan's Bullying Claims Nothing Was Ever Good Enough. She Left Staff Shaking with Fear." And this was done, again, by Valentine Lowe, who is a very well-respected reporter. So again, these allegations, and they did the best they could to try to figure out and try to go through and make sure that everything was shored up. There was nothing they were missing. They tried to bulletproof themselves as best they could from being sued. And I think they succeeded. But again, this is kind of how it started. It said that, Meghan prided herself on being a good boss. She would oftentimes buy the crew pizza. At Kensington Palace, there was an occasion recounted in the pages of People magazine. And this is important too, because we know that Meghan has used people to produce her own message. And People magazine is very notable for being just basically a mouthpiece of celebrity. So there's they rarely go into trying to uncover things about a celeb and reporting them. That's not really what People magazine does. It's basically entirely a giant puff PR piece. And she paid for ice cream for the staff. They were remarking how it was the best day of work ever. A friend said, also key. So a friend, it's not the staff member reporting it, it's a friend reporting it. And then Valentine Lowe kind of switches over. He said, that was not the truth behind the scenes. He said the first sign that anything might be amiss came when a story appeared in a diary column in a national newspaper, which I believe was the Mail, was the first one to break this, saying that Meghan's personal assistant had left after 6 months after the royal wedding. And this was in October. So everything started to come out around October 2019. So this was 2018. This was when Harry and Meghan basically landed in Australia and New Zealand for their first big tour. The Invictus Games were there. So this was when all this kind of first started coming out. A week later, the assistant was named in another paper as Melissa Tobati. And it said, quote, Meghan put a lot of demands on her and it ended up with her in tears, a source was reported as saying. So the signs and the difficulties with Meghan started to come out pretty early, according to the Times. And then what they've said as well is that, this was becoming such an issue that was actually brought up to Harry and Meghan, and they were brought in for a meeting. And a senior aide spoke to the couple about the difficulties caused by their treatment of staff. People needed to be treated well and with some understanding, even when they were not performing to their standards, they were told. Meghan is said to have replied, quote, it's not my job to coddle people, unquote. This is very telling, I think. Meghan was exceptionally demanding. That's what we've been told from everything, is that she was exceptionally demanding on everyone. And sometimes people, yes, your employees perhaps don't live up to your standards or don't live up to what you want. However, you work with them, figure out, maybe they need additional training on something like that. That's what normal, good managers do. If you're leaving people in tears constantly, that's not because they're not living up to your standards. There's something else going on. It went on to say that there is no doubt that Meghan could be a demanding boss. There were a number of people, allegedly including Harry himself, who suggested that those early problems were partly to do with cultural differences in management style. As Omid Scobie and Carolyn Duran put it in their book about the couple, Finding Freedom, Americans can be much more direct, and that often doesn't sit well in the much more refined institution of the monarchy. Now, I call a bit of foul here because I'm an American, and yes, sometimes the British can be kind of more roundabout sometimes in the way they say things, but being demanding implies that she was like, you do this now, you drop everything, you must do X. And then once they did X, she complained that they didn't do X right. I think you look at this and, they say, well, she could be direct, she could be demanding. Yeah, but there's also something about being kind, being courteous, being understanding, and because it does take a while for you to understand this whole royal system. But Meghan didn't care about that. It goes on. However, the Times has spoken to insiders who have argued that it was more than just American street talking. The Duchess could be sharp with those she felt were letting her down, sources claim. One staff member said, quote, I had an unpleasant experiences with her. I would definitely say humiliated, unquote. After Jason Knapp, the couple's communication secretary, made his bullying complaint, another staff member worried about spending time with her the next day because she feared that Meghan was about to find out, quote, this is why I feel sick. Another time, there was a row about whether Meghan had been told that media would be present at an event. When she rang the aide, They rang back, but she did not pick up. They said, quote, "I feel terrified. I can't stop shaking," unquote. Another source said, quote, "There were a lot of broken people. Young women were broken by their behavior." The source, unquote, the source described one staff member as, quote, "completely destroyed." Even before the wedding, they were feeling the strain. One told a colleague the couple were, quote, "outrageous bullies," unquote, and they were considering resigning. The colleague replied, quote, "That's so dreadful, and they are bullies." And so not only was this entrapping Meghan was pulling Harry into committing outrageous acts of behavior. And before this, he was known for being very, very liked by his staff. And he allowed himself to be twisted by Meghan into becoming very much more aggressive. And we'll get further into the end of why kind of this went in this direction, which is rather interesting considering how everything played out. The harsh treatment was not confined to junior staff. One source claimed that Samantha Cohen, the couple's private secretary, had been bullied. Another said, quote, "They treated her terribly. Nothing was ever good enough. She doesn't understand. She's failing," unquote. In fact, the source said Cohen was, quote, "a saint," unquote, and the best organizer of royal tours they had known. So a lot of this, again, centers around that Australia-New Zealand tour. That's when everything was not good before then, but it went completely off the cliff after that. And there was at least one instance that was making the rounds on kind of social media and Tumblr, which was eventually kind of confirmed pseudo by The Sun. And I'll get there in a minute. The Sussex's autumn tour in 2018, when they visited Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, and Tonga, was stressful for staff, sources say. A senior advisor did his best to reassure them, saying, "You are dealing with a very difficult lady." One source claimed that most of the tensions in the household at the time concerned the Sussexes' relations with the media. Quote, "The way I see it, their view of not getting institutional support was that they were not getting permission to blow up the institution's relationships with the media." Harry and Meghan deny this in the article, we are told. One conversation confirmed to the Times seems to reveal how much the palace was prepared to go out of its way to help Meghan. Before the wedding, the couple had a meeting with senior aide who told them that the palace was doing everything it could and there was no need to think she had to take on her role in a particular way. Source said if she was passionate about the acting world, they could help her think about finding a role within the film industry. The source said, quote, "The entire palace, because of everything about her and because of what Harry's previous girlfriends had been through, was bending over backwards to make sure every option was open." They said Meghan thanked them, but she had no wish to carry on acting and said she wanted to concentrate on her humanitarian and philanthropic work. And again, you just kind of look at this and go, well, she didn't do really that much philanthropic work before, but she also knew she wasn't a good actress and she had no real future in Hollywood. So even if they could have helped her try, but she had other ideas in mind. And if perhaps she decided she just wanted to pursue acting, maybe there wouldn't have been a Duchess title on the table for her. In the second article that kind of came out with the Times, they kind of described how Jason Knapp, who was the communication secretary at the time for both the Cambridges and the Sussexes, and how he was really trying to make Simon Case and others aware of Meghan's behavior. He particularly said that the Duchess seems to intent on always having someone in her sights. She is bullying Why and seeking to undermine her confidence. We have had a report after report from people who have witnessed unacceptable behavior towards Why. Knapp also wrote in the email to Simon Case after speaking with Samantha Carruthers, who was the head of HR, saying, "I remain concerned that nothing will be done." The Times in the second article was also the first to reveal that Meghan wore diamonds that came from the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, who was recently revealed as having been involved, allegedly, with the assassination. I say allegedly to protect myself legally, guys. Just FYI, allegedly assassinated a journalist, and Meghan wore these diamonds anyways, and then proceeded to tell staff misinformation about the provenance of these jewels. It said, the Times can also reveal that the Duchess wore earrings to a formal dinner in Fiji in 2018 that were a wedding gift from Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia, who is said by U.S. intelligence agencies to have murdered the journalist Jamil Khashoggi. I'm sorry, guys, I can't pronounce it. The dinner took place 3 weeks after the killing. At the time, it was reported that the earrings were borrowed. And I remember that specifically, that the earrings were borrowed, which I thought was odd because the Brits generally don't do that. And most royal houses don't. So I did remember thinking at the time, that's kind of weird. Now we know why. The Duchess does not deny this was what she said, despite being aware of their provenance. On the same tour, sources said the main reason the Duchess cut short an engagement in Fiji was because of her reservations about the organization UN Women. It is not clear why she has said felt so strongly about its presence. The Duchess denies these claims, of course, about the event. Knapp also wrote in his email. Knapp also wrote, I'm very concerned that the Duchess was able to bully 2 PAs out of the household in the last year. The treatment of X was totally unacceptable. And so just to go over kind of that kerfluffle that happened in Fiji. So Meghan went to this market. It was hot. There were a lot of people there. It was very crowded. I get that. But apparently she hissed into the ear of one of her PAs and told them, I want out now. And it just didn't go over very well. And there wasn't a good explanation given to the public as to why the event was cut short. But the Sun kind of revealed what really went on behind the scenes. So the Sun reports. At the time, the reason was given for the abrupt end to her walkabout was that the crowds grew too big to control. However, Meghan, 39, was actually concerned about the presence of UN Women, a group which promotes women's empowerment, the Times reported. A Daily Mail reporter was on the trip and claims they saw Meghan turn and hiss, quote unquote, at a member of her entourage, clearly incandescent with rage about something, and demanded to leave. They wrote, I saw that same female, highly distressed member of the staff sitting in an official car with tears running down her face. Our eyes met and she lowered hers. Humiliation etched on her features. At the time, I was unable to document anything as I couldn't conclusively link the two incidents together, despite my suspicions. I've subsequently found out from other sources that my instincts were right. So again, we have some video here of this kind of whole market thing. And what's really annoying about these whole situations is that Meghan Markle is an actress. She's not a good one, but she is pretty good about always plastering a smile on her face. So everyone around her looks exceptionally miserable. And she's just grinning. And I understand because there is an element of you have to put on a brave face even when situations aren't to your liking or whatever. That's part of the idea. That's part of being a royal and being a public figure. However, it also just seemed, the whole situation seemed very, very odd, and that her bodyguard in particular looked utterly stressed out. And obviously, you know, if a royal is going there, the security is pretty good. So the security thing kind of, I mean, there were a lot of people there. It was hot and humid to give some, you know, cover to Meghan. She was very early in her pregnancy and she could have been uncomfortable and hot. However, again, it just doesn't make a ton of sense. And she clearly was upset about something there and demanded to leave. And we're told she did not demand nicely. So in another instance of Meghan, this was even before she was married, she got upset over the wrong color red. So the Sun reported, but according to a report in the Sunday Times, a former aide to one of the most senior members of the royal family claimed half of the staff threatened to quit over tensions allegedly caused by the Sussexes. Another palace source claimed the entire household was on the verge of quitting. It was drama with those two. The former aide said one incident that caused alarm occurred when Meghan hosted a shooting party at Sandringham for Harry's friends shortly after their engagement. She had ordered personally embroidered red blankets for each guest but was not happy with what she received. When they arrived, they weren't the right shade of red for Meghan, and she went mental at Melissa Tobati, who was her personal assistant. Melissa was Meghan's former personal assistant, who was alleged to have been left traumatized because of Meghan's volatile behavior. Buckingham Palace is investigating allegations Meghan was an outrageous bully to her staff before she departed Britain last year, the Sun says. She even complained about her engagement interview, apparently. She complained it hadn't gone well, and that Michelle Hussein wasn't empathetic enough, wasn't warm enough. So again, guys, nobody could ever live up to the standards Meghan Markle set for her staff. And there's another allegation I want to get to, and this was one that was made essentially that she, and I had heard this on social media, like insights on Tumblr and stuff, that she had basically thrown hot tea at someone. And the Sun kind of confirmed it. In the article, they said, at one point, Meghan is claimed to have lost her temper with an assistant and a hot drink was knocked over. A source said, quote, the Australian tour was one of the most important in the royal world, but there have long been allegations of rows with staff. But if the assistants come forward, it will form the center of the palace's bullying probe. It was a critical time. And then kind of another thing that came out, this was in the documentary, The Princes of the Press. And this was from Valentine Lowe, who said, these people I know 2.5 years later, when I'm writing this story, some of them were in tears. They were still severely psychologically traumatized. So something went badly wrong. But of course, Meghan's lawyer, she has all the answers. Jenny Affa from the firm Schillings replied, there were some massive inaccuracies in that story. She added, it's hard to prove a negative. If you haven't been bullied by someone, how do you show you haven't? Asked if Meghan was a bully, she said, absolutely not. What bullying actually means is improperly using power to hurt someone emotionally or psychologically. The Duchess has absolutely denied doing that. She added, but she wouldn't want to negate anyone's personal experiences. So she's like, if you have somebody going, well, let's bring out the definition, then you know kind of there is a decent amount of truth to whatever the allegations are. Because if you have to rely on, well, this is the definition of what bullying is, it's kind of like, yeah. But then she also says, well, I don't want to deny anybody's personal experience, which means that their personal experience could be quite bad. But this, I think, is kind of the most telling thing that was told to Valentine Lowe in his original interview. And I think, again, this is very important to know, and it shows us how Meghan has kind of pulled all of this together. She said, the source said, everyone knew that the institution would be judged by her happiness. The mistake they made was thinking she wanted to be happy. She wanted to be rejected because she was obsessed with that narrative from day one. Another claimed she wanted to be the victim because then she could convince Harry that was an unbearable experience and they had no choice but to move to America. And again, we've seen that this is exceptionally true. So just looking at all this, it's just outrageous that you could say that those bullying allegations against Meghan would be basically buried. So why is the palace doing this? And I think in part it is because, well, kind of everybody made a lot of mistakes here. And Harry and Meghan, yes, they were the instigators, they were the catalyst for everything, but the palace also did not know what to do with her or how to handle her. And I thought this was kind of interesting because, you know, people who work at the palace and people who are royals, you know, they understand that these people are their staff members. And yes, there have been heated moments documented between royals and their staff members. I'm particularly thinking of a situation with Sophie. And of course, Andrew has been kind of known for being not the most pleasant guy in the world to work with. However, I think this noted why the palace struggled so much. And it said, when someone decides not to be civil, they have no idea what to do. They were run over by her and then run over by Harry. They had no idea what to do. And I think, guys, that is critical. The palace had no clue what to do with her because you don't expect to have somebody be that nasty. Like, I understand that. Like, I wouldn't know what to do with somebody who's just that intentionally a nasty human being. I wouldn't know what to do. And here's the other thing, and they mentioned this in the article as well. It's like there has to be they had no mechanism at this point to deal with somebody. Like, how do you discipline a principal? They mentioned it, they don't say it specifically that way, but Meghan was considered a principal. What do you do? They have HR policies for staff members and employees within the palace, but what do you do when the principal, the person they're supposed to be working for, the person who's supposed to understand that their role and responsibilities is to be kind and civil to the people who are being paid for by the tax members to help them in their roles, be so incredibly nasty, mean, vindictive, have people be in such psychological terror of them that they can't function. They had no clue that Meghan Markle was this kind of person until she got in there. And then they just, again, did not know what to do. And so I have to give it to the palace here. They probably came across some of their information that made them look bad. They did not protect their staff members from her. And they didn't have policies in place to deal with something like that. But I'm sure they do now. So you're looking at all this thinking, again, why is the palace burying it? Yes, perhaps they look bad, but the people have a right to know as well. And probably some people are thinking, well, Meghan is going to be doing a victory lap about this. She can scream from the mountaintops, I've been vindicated. And I'm sure some people are like, oh, no, you haven't. But I think what's telling is Meghan Markle is so far, from what I can tell, hasn't taken a victory lap about this. And very notably, the palace hasn't come out and said that there was nothing to the bullying allegations. That is critical. So not only they're not sharing anything, but they're also telling us no proof or no evidence that Meghan Markle was not a bully. That is kind of critical. So why, again, hasn't the palace done what they should have done and made this public? Well, I think, again, like I said, first, they're trying to protect themselves because they didn't handle her well. But I think there's kind of two big reasons. Number one, again, and I've said this before, the palace is trying to protect Harry. Harry was deeply involved in all this, and he went along with Meghan Markle's behavior. He just let her run all over people, and he just jumped on and happily did it with her. And again, they know Harry's gonna have to come back at some point. So they're just kind of like, well, okay, we'll just kind of try to minimize his involvement as much as possible. But I think the bigger reason is that Harry and Meghan, especially if they stay together for, well, I mean, perhaps they'll stay married forever. I only ever gave them 5 years, but hey, perhaps they'll be married for a lifetime. Probably kind of miserable together. But anyways, but what if they, continue to be in this relationship? So what the palace is really setting up, though, is that they basically have a publicly funded, basically treasure trove of Meghan Markle's awful behavior that they can release in little bits or maybe even all at once whenever they wish. It's something they can hold over the heads of Harry and Meghan, saying, yes, you got away with some of this behavior at the time, but we have the receipts. We have the records. We know what you did. And we can release that whenever we want. And I think, again, the palace, I think, has played Harry and Meghan exceptionally well. I did a video on this, which actually turned out to be incredibly true, that they were kind of humiliated at the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. That is what actually I predicted, is that they would very publicly shove Harry and Meghan in the back and as far away from the senior members as they could. And that's exactly what they did. They made sure that anytime the camera was on Prince Charles and Camilla, Catherine and William, that Harry and Meghan were so far to the other side, there was no way they would be in the same shot, pretty much. That's what they did. And that, again, the palace is thinking 20 steps ahead. Yes, maybe sometimes it seems like Meghan Markle is getting something over on people. But at the end of the day, I think the palace has played her exceptionally well. And I think they've set up this whole thing that they basically have an entire dossier on Meghan Markle being a bully to staff members. I'm sure they have details that we haven't even seen yet. They may even have video evidence, picture evidence, audio evidence of Meghan Markle being cruel to staff members. And again, this is all allegedly. Meghan Markle has a long denial, which I will post just if you want to read it. She says none of this ever happened, that it was all basically made up to assassinate her character. But again, you look at Meghan and go, well, why didn't you sue? If it was all fake and false and malicious and awful and character assassination with no evidence behind it, then she could have sued and probably easily won. That she hasn't tells you there's a lot of truth in this. And she also doesn't want more people digging into this. Because again, it shows that she's not the person she portrays. And you know what else we also know? Is that Harry and Meghan have churned through a lot of staff members since moving to the States. And so if they were these incredible bosses that were so nice and lovely, everybody wants to work with them for years and decades, well, why does nobody last more than a year or 6 months? Why? Well, because they can't. Because Harry and Meghan are impossible to work for. And she set herself up to be the victim because she wanted Harry to leave. And I think she played her cards so badly here. If she wanted to do this whole Mexit thing, escape to America, blah, 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 what she really, really, really needed to do is to set herself, she needed to give it 5 years at least in the monarchy. She got out too quickly. She wasn't able to really gain traction with the public. And so her and Harry have done this about face thing and did Mexit, you know, kind of blew up everything. And as time has gone on, the more and more people see through Harry and Meghan. They're not charmed by them anymore. They're annoyed by them. They see them as hypocritical. They see them as narcissistic. They see them as cold individuals. Like, how can you not want to be, you know, hanging out with the rest of the Windsors? They seem like a fun lot. At least they did at the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. The Harry and Meghan weren't there. It makes them seem cold, distant, like they are the issue, not the monarchy. It's them. And they can't really, unless they adjust themselves, they can't get out of this negative vortex that they found themselves in because they are the instigators of their own demise. They are the reason their brand, their roles as royals, everything has imploded is because of their own actions, and that they refuse to take any responsibility for that. Because you see, again, Meghan Markle in her denial says, well, I didn't do anything. Like, you know, all these people, you know, basically she's saying all of them are lying, all of them are making it up. But, you know, there's got to be some truth to it. If there's not, then it wouldn't go anywhere. Again, but to summarize, sorry, I know this video got kind of long, but I think it's important. I thought it was important to go through all the allegations to just kind of refresh your memory. I'll have the links to all the articles I mentioned down below, but it's incredibly important to remember that, you know, the palace is playing the long game here, and they played it well. Yes, it's frustrating. Harry and Meghan still have their titles. They're still gallivanting across the world, kind of, you know, portraying themselves as these pseudo-royals. Yes, it's annoying, but their public persona is not getting better, it's getting worse. And because of that, they're in a really, really bad straits. And so this bearing of the bullying allegations, it's not really, I mean, it's kind of a boon for them, but they also know there's probably something hiding in the corner there that can come out to bite them at some point. So guys, let me know what you think of this video. I know it got, again, rather long, but I wanted to go over for those of you who maybe don't have access to those publications, like the Times, or just didn't know the details, could kind of be reminded of all the details of what allegedly Meghan did. These are not light allegations. These are very, very serious. And I'm sure the palace has much more detail, but they also know that they need a rainy day account for Meghan Markle, and they have it now. They also have it on Harry if they ever need to use it against him. And so Harry and Meghan have really dug their own grave, but that's what they've done basically their entire time as royals. So guys, again, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again very, very soon. Bye.